One really neat thing about the Malaysian culture, I especially noticed this in East Malaysia, was the emphasis on treating your guest well. Um, and so a lot of times, like if you go knocking on doors or when you go to visit someone, they're always, whenever you let someone into your home, you're supposed to give them something to eat and drink, kind of culturally. And so every time you'd go see a member or less active, or pretty much every time you went into someone's house, they would give you something to eat or drink. And sometimes if they didn't have anything, they would hand some money to their little kid and send them out to the store. Go, okay, go grab something. We've got guests. We need to provide them with eat and drink. And so that was kind of a neat culture to see how important it was for them to have visitors come into their house. So that was kind of neat. If you point your feet at someone in Malaysia, that's considered very rude. So a lot of times you'll go into houses and you'll be sitting on the floor because they don't have furniture or whatnot. And so you usually sit crisscross applesauce, but you don't want to point your feet at people because that's considered extremely rude. Something to be aware of, I guess, is this plays into the fact that whenever you go to someone's house, they give you food and drink. If you eat or drink all of the food they give you, then culturally they're kind of obligated to refill it and give you more. And some members really like it when missionaries eat a lot of food. They'll say, oh yeah, Elder so-and-so, I remember him. He was the best. I make all this food and he'd eat all of it, and I'd give him more and he'd eat even more. And so some members really like it when you eat all your food. For some missionaries, especially ones that are new in the field, it can be a little bit overwhelming because, you fit in America, we have this culture of you need to finish all the food on your plate. And so they do that, and then they get more food dumped on their plate. The members say, oh yeah, eat more. Here, have some more of this. And so that takes some getting used to. And so what a lot of more experienced missionaries tend to do is they'll either eat their food kind of slowly, talk a lot, and so that makes sure that they're not getting force-fed too much, basically, or they won't finish all of the food on their plate deliberately so that they won't get more added on their plate. So that's kind of a neat thing about eating at people's houses in Malaysia. Sometimes, people who weren't even interested in the gospel and didn't really want to hear what you had to say would still invite you into your house and give you something to eat or drink. And so it was good, and as missionaries, we would still do that a lot of times. You'd go in and, if someone doesn't want to learn about the gospel from you, you can still do a lot of good by making a good impression on them. One problem we had in Malaysia was that, especially in East Malaysia, is that a lot of people were convinced that our church was a cult. In Malay, the term is gereja sesat. And so many times you get an investigator who'd be progressing for the first couple lessons, and then suddenly they cut off all contact because, they had heard from a relative or family member that, oh yeah, that church is a creepy gereja sesat. It's a creepy cult. And so that was difficult, that so many people in East Malaysia in particular had this perception of our church that was wrong, and it was hard to overcome. And so anyway, it was neat, or it was helpful when missionaries would take the time to build relationships with people, or to be polite to people and kind to people, even those who weren't interested in learning about the gospel, because you never know if maybe their relatives are going to be interested in learning someday. And instead of someone saying, oh yeah, don't go join that gereja sesat, don't go join that cult, like their members are rude, I brought them in my house, gave them food and drink, and they just tried to, shove their religion at me, and they were very rude, and you don't want to get involved with them. It'd be better if you've left a positive impression with a family, and then maybe one day when their family members want to learn, they say, oh yeah, I remember their missionaries came by, and we didn't want to learn anything from them, but they were very polite. It seemed like a nice church, so if you want to learn more about them, go ahead. And so that kind of social connectedness in the Malaysian culture, the fact that everyone knows their relatives and everyone sees their relatives frequently and everyone thinks very highly of their relatives' opinion of them and their family, comes into play in the missionary dynamic, where it's a lot easier to get someone to join the church if their family and extended family is approving, or at least doesn't strongly disapprove. So